Hey, welcome to Vortex Garage, and well, it's about time we get the Jag XJS up on the lift and do a mechanical inspection. So why don't you come along with us as we go ahead and do that. So today we're going to go ahead and raise it up. We'll even pull a wheel off. We'll do a deep inspection underneath, and we're going to talk about a few things that we've learned. Now, you can check out some of our other videos. We've already done a walk around, and when we got this car, it wasn't running. We took some steps to make it run. But even since then, we've learned more about this vehicle, and we're going to talk about that. We've been assembling parts. We're going to talk about what we're going to do to take it to the next level. But before we do anything, I think it's about time we take a look and see what's actually hiding underneath on this car. So let's get it up on the lift. Well, it's already there, but let's get it up a little further. All right, so we're going to give this camera a try and hope that it gives us good views, maybe even better views than we've seen in the past. All right, so probably the first thing that you're going to see, mainly on this camera, but when we put it up, is our bumpers certainly look a little different. And well, now that I've raised it up this high, it's a little hard to see. I'll just have to lift the camera up to show you. But I have partially disassembled the bumpers. And the main reason is that you may recall in some of the pictures of this car, it had apparently been, someone whacked it right here. And it had bent this top piece of the bumper up, and there was actually a bit of a gap there, and it was kind of angled up. Didn't look right. So what we've done is we've taken apart the bumper assembly, and I have bent this back, and I've also corrected the mounts here. So everything is currently just zip tied the way it goes in, and it's loose. So don't go by that alignment, because that alignment is loose. But once we get all the bolts back in place, align everything and tighten it down, I'm pretty confident now we've solved the problem and the bumper will be straight. And just to check everything, I did pull this side off as well. So everything's going to go back together and look great. All right, so let's take a look at what we got here. First off, let's take a look at these fog lights. As far as I understand, these are the original Hella lights that would have come with the vehicle. I don't know if they were dealer options or if they were Jaguar options. I honestly don't know. Someone can chime in, or maybe I'll do a little research prior to editing. Unfortunately, these do have some cracking in them, as you can probably see here. I think the other one's a little worse off. Oh, yeah, it's a little worse off. This one is definitely cracked externally right here, and you can see cracks off to the side of it if you look. Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's take a look at what else we have here. And we're going to look underneath, and we have our radiator assembly. It looks like we have a electrical piece here. I don't know exactly what that is right offhand. Maybe I'll do some research and find out, but little piece there. There's our horns, or I guess if we're talking British, we're underneath the car where the bonnet would be, so I think those are our hooters. A couple of leaves in there. We're going to want to get some leaves out of there. Look at that. But all in all, I don't see any drips out of our radiators. That's a pretty good sign. So this is pretty clean and dry. But that's about all we're going to see that's clean and dry, I have a feeling, because there are some drips on the floor just from sitting here for a couple days. Oh yeah, there's another project that we have, a little 50cc ATV, trying to get it running for somebody. All right, but back to the issue at hand. Oh, yum, look at that. Yeah, drippy. So that felt like possibly power steering fluid, which might explain why it's a little noisy. But as we look here, there's definitely just leaks in general. Very common. Like I said, we're going to talk about some things that we've learned on these cars as well. I've certainly learned that leaks are a way of life with these. Doesn't mean we're not going to fix them, but it does not surprise me on, even though we only have 49,000 miles, the age of the vehicle and the areas and spots these are prone to leak. Let's talk about that really quick. So I was a little curious, where exactly do these leak? And a quick search. Cam cover gaskets, the D-seals at the rear, breather spout at the front of the left head from the gasket, 2 set screws are threaded. It's not blind holes, and oil seeps down through the threads and out. Rubber plug in the timing cover, right hand side just below the head gasket line. Both camshaft alloy blocks. It's only a chemical seal, and leak they do, it says. Oil cooler pipes, let's see, the drain back pipe, the lower tin oil sump junction at the sandwich plate, oil sender units, O-ring under the distributor, front crankshaft seal, and rear crankshaft seal. Generally not as problematic, fortunately, but certainly are an item of check. And that's just one forum post, which I will share in the video links here. There's one other thing that I wanted to talk to the camera really quick. Let me just show you this. This is a really awesome thing that is available for these cars. This is a book available as a PDF from Kirby Palm, Experience in a Book, Help for the Jaguar XJS Owner. And this ebook, basically, it's available as a PDF for free, which is amazing. It's like a 800 page book that has all of these experiences, not just from Kirby, but also things that he's added from the community over the years. And it is just an invaluable tool to anyone who owns one of these cars, myself included. I've learned a ton just by reading it, and there's a ton that I haven't even looked at. That book has everything you're ever going to want to know about these cars, and probably a lot of things you wish you didn't, but you're happy to find out. And you know, as we talk about them, and as we go through today, I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time under the bonnet, because we already did that in the last videos, but you do recall I worked on the distributor just to get this thing running. Well, I haven't really driven it a lot since then because A, I want to make sure I service the fuel lines, but also I learned from Kirby's book that I really need to take a close look at the advance weights in the distributor, a super common problem that can result in a lot of major issues with these cars. And I didn't check that when I was under there, just getting it running. The second thing is, you might have noticed on that video, I used the settings. I think I talked about this in the video, but I used the old Opus 1 system, not the CEI, or maybe it was the Opus 2, whatever. I didn't use the CEI measurements for the pickup wheel, and thus my pickup wheel is actually a little too far. It does work, the car does run, but we're going to strip the distributor down at some point, fix that, and check the advance weights, clean them up appropriately. So if you've got one of these cars, if you didn't know about that book, then I'm glad to share the knowledge that it exists, but I have to give a lot of credit to the Jag community and Kirby Palm himself, who took the time to put together around 800 pages of invaluable information on these complex vehicles. That is just, how cool is that? All right, let's go a little further underneath here. Okay, so we definitely know that we've got several leaks and several leaks to check. It's hard to get camera views in here, which is why I'm trying with the zoom camera, because I figure I can maybe get in and look at some things. I'm assuming that's a power steering cooler. And the good news is there's a lot of things under here that are dry, for just as much as there's a lot of things that are very wet. I want to take a look at the steering rack, and it looks like a slightly different setup, but or maybe a different rack. I don't know, to be honest with you, from the 83 that we had, or I still have, but that we had looked at. But one of the things I wanted to come back around here, yeah, look at that. You see that drip right there? If we stay zoomed out a little bit, but you can kind of see that drip there. What I am wondering is if the seal on the top of the rack is leaking and it's causing power steering fluid to leak out. I do know that we've got a noisy pump and probably low fluid, which we're going to at least correct the low fluid for now. But more than likely, we've got a leak coming out of the pinion top seal on our rack. It's a pretty common place, at least on the XJ6. I presume it's very similar here. You can look at how just clean so far everything is, aside from being oily, but it is still a 49,000 mile car. And well, that sump doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look banged up, doesn't look rusty. Same with the bell housing on our turbo hydromatic. One thing jumping out, and I believe I found some receipts for this. We do see some exhaust work was done. I think this actually appeared in the Carfax that I ran on it. And but we can definitely see there are some exhaust pipes here. This car did spend time in New Jersey and New York, so I don't know if it was susceptible to rust or if it was just from sitting. And it's a relatively low mileage car for what it is. But then, of course, there's the rest of our silencers. But let's not go back there yet. We're not done up front. So a couple things that we see here. We do see a new shock absorber up front. I know the prior owner had put those on. In fact, I've got half of the ones for the back that he gave me. I think we can kind of see the brake pads a little bit, but we'll pull the wheel off and get a closer view. all in all, everything's looking pretty good here. It's hard to do when I'm holding this camera. I have shook the wheel. Everything feels pretty tight up here. So again, general basic inspection, this front suspension's looking pretty decent. One thing that's interesting is, well, just how hard it is to show you things under here. This V12 takes up so much room on this car. All you basically see are transmission pan, oil sump pan, and a filter peeking out there. So aside from seeing oily bits down here, it's hard to get your views up inside. But we can zoom in a little bit. One thing I did notice, I'm going to see if I can show you on the camera here. Yeah, there we go. It's a Jaguar branded oil filter. And I have not changed the oil in this yet. It does look like perhaps there's some oil seeping, probably just down around the filter. But we've got a filter and an oil service that we're going to do on it anyway. So, but interesting that this, I don't know when it was last serviced, but it does have an actual Jaguar oil filter on it. Certainly hope it's not original, but pretty sure it isn't. All right, this side, much the same as the other. I've shaken it, no problems. Hoses look good. You know, nothing jumping out at me. Honestly, all in all, things are looking pretty good. So one thing I did want to check was date codes. And we know that these are the raised white letter. We'll talk about tires a little bit. Okay, but here we go. So let's see if you can see that. So 3520. So the 35th week of 2020. That's only about a 4-year-old, less than a 4-year-old tire. But then I was thinking, let me check the others. Oh, look, it's right there. I got lucky. I'm actually cheating because I already looked at this. And that's really hard to get focused, but that's 1414. All right. And I did check this. So I am not going to lie to you. I checked them. Those two are also 1414. So the owner, oops, hit my head there. So the prior owner did in fact change this tire out. And this one is pretty new, but the rest are basically 10-year-old tires. So we're going to look to change them. I think they got a little bit of flat spotting anyway. And therein lies the next issue that we're going to talk about, which is tires themselves. So these, I remember when we first got the car and we were showing you, we were making jokes about putting the raised white letters on the outside and why did somebody put a Mickey Thompson on a Jag? Well, then I came to look for new tires and I looked up the original tire size that these are. These are 15-inch rims. The XJS did go to 16-inch rims later in the 90s, but for those of you who have 15-inch rims and a rock in the tread, well, these are a 235/60/15. Now, if you go look for that tire size, well, you're not going to find much. In most of the big tire online sites, you're going to find 1 or 2 options. And if you dig deeper, you're going to find some offshore options, I think is the best way to put it. Well, basically Chinese tires that are being made in this size that are kind of questionable. You will find that many of them are raised white letter tires. Pretty much the best you can get are the BF Goodrich TAs, which are almost $200 a pop. And then of course you got the Cooper Cobras, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm sure some people are. And then you got some other brands that are out there. And the last thing that you could do if you're a stickler for originality, you could try to source the original Pirellis. I think they're either P600s or P6000s. I found some of those for, I think, $399 a tire. And well, we didn't go with those. So let me show you really quick what I did get. I'll pull one and bring them over. And well, this is what I ended up getting. This is the Hankook Kinergy ST. I think it's an H735 is the brand, or is the specific model number. And yes, these are raised white letter tires, but we're not going to put those on the outside. These are not directional, so they can be flipped around. And the backside looks a lot more conservative, which I think will look decent on our Jag. So I really struggled with this decision on what tire to get simply because there weren't a whole lot of options in the original size. A lot of folks end up going the 225/60 R15, which is about a 4% difference, and it does affect your speedometer a little bit. So I think instead of 60, you're doing maybe a mile and a half lower. So you do have some speedometer error to worry about. And then I did question a little bit, since they are about 4% shorter, how are they going to look on the car in terms of filling in wheel wells and when the car's sitting on the ground. A lot of people seem to do that, and I was going to, but then I started looking at tires in that size and found there weren't really many in stock in that size either. So if there was a super great option and I could have gotten a really awesome tire in that size, I probably would have, but unfortunately I couldn't. Now what I tried to do originally, there is a tire company from China called Vitor, V-I-T-O-U-R, and they make a tire called the Vitor Galaxy. And I originally tried to pick up a set of those. Unfortunately, the place that stocks them was out, and I ended up falling back on getting these Hankooks. That's what we're going to give a try and see how they are. So one thing you're going to find on the tires for this vehicle is a lot of the ones in this size are either S or T rated. That means you're talking like 118 mile an hour, speed rated tire. But again, are you going to do that in your Jag? Are you going to go 140 miles an hour? Can the thing even do that? You probably don't necessarily need the speed rating. What you really need is a tire that's matched well to the vehicle, how you're going to drive it. Well, the Vitors actually are V-rated, so they've got quite a better speed rating. They have a pretty nice looking tread, and they're actually very popular in a lot of other communities. So if you look at like the Cobra replica community, they're using them, and a few others, and they've actually got some pretty darn good feedback and reviews. So I was curious to try those. They're also about 110 bucks a tire, so it was going to be a lot cheaper to go with those. Ended up going with the Hankooks. I think I paid $144 a tire for these, again US dollars. Quite a bit less than if I had gone up to about $200 for the BF Goodriches. Now, I think the Mickey Thompsons that are on here actually end up being one of the best options for this vehicle in its original size, and I almost went and ordered them. However, the place didn't have them in stock. They only had 2 of them available. If I had found 4 of those in a place and it was a good price, I probably would have stuck with the Mickey Thompsons. Instead, I was able to get these. I want to get the car up and running, and we'll be able to report and let you know how these Hankooks drive on an XJS. So, that was just one more of the things that I didn't anticipate would be a problem, which was buying tires. So let's continue our journey under the car here. Take a look here. Of course, we got our catalytic converters, our resonators, and our silencers, but let's look at what's really important here, the floorboards of the vehicle. And good news, those are looking pretty good. So that is our right-hand side floorboard. And let's come take a look at the left-hand side. Don't see any signs of rust, which is good. And does have the undercoating. Let's look at lines, how those look. So this is a little crusty, this line here, but not too bad. These look all right. Honestly, I've seen way worse. That is like a little bit of corrosion on them, but not like rust and rusting through. So that line's looking pretty healthy. So I think we're all right there. All right, let's take a look at our rear mount for the transmission. So we're seeing some oil back here too. The big question is now, where is that coming from? Do we have a leak out of the back of the transmission, or is this simply oil blowing back? Let me zoom out. Is that simply oil blowing back, kind of riding along here and just pooling? A lot of times that can happen as well. Let's see if we can see. All right, I got this other flashlight. That's right. Get you in there. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. This car is very difficult to get you a view on. What we can see up there is relatively, again, it's very difficult to see up here. Might come back around with my phone camera and see if I can zoom in on some of those, and we'll do cut shots and show you. But all right, so we got our plates and everything intact. I mean, really, I think one of the important things here is that we're seeing a pretty original vehicle. Aside from the exhaust pipes being replaced here, we don't see signs of major issues. We don't see signs of things being pulled off and not put back. Okay, rear suspension. Got some fresh grease there. So somebody's been greasing things, which is good. We got grease fitting there, and we see grease coming out. So somebody's been doing some maintenance. There's the shock absorbers that we got. 2 of those in the KYBs, and we'll probably grab 2 more at some point and eventually service the rear. But for now, I think we're just going to try to enjoy it. Here's the other side. Again, signs of grease. So somebody's been servicing, that's nice. Right, here's the rear diff. We can see the drive shaft on this end, and we can see no major issues here. No major leaks out of our diff. This is actually, looks like just the undercoating. None of this is really wet. There's a little bit of wetness here by the drain. I wonder if that's been serviced or if it's leaking. It's a little tiny bit oily, but doesn't look scary. We can still check it. Rotors on our inbound rotors, looking a little scored. Oh yeah, those are pretty scored. That one is, at least on that side. Let's check this one. Oh, this one's fine. All right, so let's see why. Oh, I'd say that's why. A little hard to get in here to see, but there is no brake pad left. That brake pad is completely gone. Whereas this one, it's actually got a fair bit of life in it. You can kind of see. Whereas this one, not so much. So I wonder if we got a sticky caliper back here, or something else. We at least need to throw some brake pads on here, even in the short term. Hope we don't have to drop the whole rear to, I don't think you do to do the caliper. Definitely if we're going to do the disc. But we'll talk a little bit about what our overall plans are. But we're not done going under the car yet and showing you what little we can show you. Hey, look, there's some views of things. And finally, we're going to end here. We got the back silencers. We have the exhaust tips. And again, as we do recall, and I certainly do know this because I actually confirmed the body tag number is different than what was original. So if you remember, we know the owner told us when we looked at the walk around that there was some sort of a rear end hit that damaged this and probably the back valance as well. And it looks like it was professionally repaired, and it was probably replaced with at least this piece was replaced with an aftermarket part. The bumper has the correct VIN sticker on it. So the bumper beam is original, but I do know that this panel, at least, if not the whole valance, has been replaced. But all in all, you can tell, looks pretty good. We're still recording. Let's go ahead and pull a wheel off. All right, so all in all, our disc is nice and smooth. Like I said, I have kind of shaken this a little bit. Our bearings actually feel nice, but I can tell you this feels like there's a little extra drag on the caliper on this side. I know I'm turning it on the hub, not the wheel, but I did this again off camera. Should have done it on camera to show you, but this one, I mean, this one actually spins a little bit. Whereas this one here, even with the wheel off, and with the wheel on, there's no spin in that one. So I do suspect that we probably have a slightly sticky caliper on this side as well, though it does look like the pads are in great shape, possibly newer. The previous owner did give us a set of calipers, so I'm going to put on the calipers that we received and take a look at these ones and possibly rebuild these later. The nice thing is these still look like the original color, original gold, and I'll bet you these would clean up and look really nice. But we are going to do a few other service things on the brakes, especially with the ABS system. I don't think the ABS is keeping pressure in, but it's entirely possible. But at any rate, we're going to take a look at that. I don't think this is necessarily a huge issue, but if that brake's dragging, we're going to see a higher temperature on here. We're going to wear brakes out. We don't want to have a sticky caliper, so we got to make sure we don't. Okay, and we can get a better view here of our wiring. We can get a better view of some of our bushings on our control arm, our upper ball joint. And again, no torn boots. Everything's looking pretty decent. I mean, yeah, the rubber is 1989, so that's what, 35 years old? So we got 35-year-old rubber in here that's never been replaced, but it actually doesn't look all that bad. Subframe looks good. you know, yeah, it's not perfect. I get it. The rubber is definitely not the most perfect off the showroom thing, but what we're seeing here is not a rusted out tower. We're not seeing a broken spring. We're not seeing torn spring isolators. We're not seeing completely missing and loose bushings. We're not seeing ripped boots. We're not seeing ripped boots on our ball joints. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. So another interesting feature here, I've already been playing with this a little bit, but as you look here, there's a little door here, and this door is normally up like that, but if you flip this door down, there's a little spot where they actually used to put keys. And the XJ6, very similar, the XJ6 would actually have a spot up here, a little tray that a spare key from the factory would be in. Most of the time they're gone. I had to check in this vehicle. There, it was gone. We're also going to be pulling this off. We're going to talk a little bit about this because we need to get to our vent system for our evap, and we need to repair something on that because when you pop the fuel cap, if it's been sitting it's been inside the whole time it's been here, but say it's been sitting for a while, it'll actually vent off some stuff when you open the cap. But again, good news is, I mean, I don't mean to talk too much, but you know, I'm just doing this ad hoc. Everything looks pretty good. There's nothing jumping out at me as scary. Again, this is looking like a pretty solid vehicle, but it does still have a lot of issues that XJSs have that need to be remedied. Well, all in all, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And certainly we're going to have plenty more on this vehicle here on Vortex Garage. So if you like the Jags, you like the XJ6, and you want to see how we go along with this one, do us a favor, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that helps us out. And we'll certainly have more on this vehicle and others here on Vortex Garage.